Good afternoon, class. Today, what we're going to work on is understanding the importance of value and how value creates form. We're going to discuss the 7 elements that create form, and we're going to demonstrate how to transition from one value to the next. What I did was I created a sphere. You can just use a tape roll and draw a circle around it. I would probably use the inside of the tape roll. I think it will be much easier. The larger the sphere, the more work you're going to have to do. So just keep that in mind. So before we start, I'm going to talk about a few things. So of course, you want to have your easel vertical. You want to have your master copy on the left side. You want your paper on the right side. We're going to do the sphere on the left side and a value scale on the right side, and then we'll label it on the far right, just like in your handout. So my pencils are sharpened, so very important that you start off whatever assignment that you're working on with your tools ready to go. So my pencils are sharpened, I have my erasers, and I have my fan brush. So that's what I'm going to need. I'm going to need an HB pencil, a 2B pencil, a 4B pencil, and a 6 or 8B pencil. I'm going to create the value scale, and on yours, I believe it is 11. The value scale is 11. So normally I do 9. However, on the internet, the best one that I found was 11. So for all intents and purposes, for today's assignment, we're going to do 11 values. So I basically use my ruler. It's about 1 inch in width. Do not make it too wide. Do not make it close to the edge or too close to the sphere. So the reason is that we're going to go beyond these vertical lines in order to create a nice clean value in the end. Okay, so here we go. HB pencil. Pencil is sharpened. I have all my tools. I do need my mul stick. Give me 1 second. So we're gonna start off the value scale at the bottom. So it's important that we get used to the idea of making our life easier. So we're going to start off with simple values, and then we're going to build on top of that. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my mul stick against here. My hand's going to go back and forth, and my left hand is going to be the one that sort of like an elevator, is going to be either pushing up or pushing down. So we're going to start at the bottom because the first one is going to be blank and the second one is going to be our value number 2. So if we mess up at the bottom, we're going to end up covering it with several layers of value, so not important. We're going to go past the left and right guidelines that we have here, and I'll explain a little bit more that reasoning. So I'm going to start down here. It's also a good way of getting used to holding the pencil. You can see that my pencil, I'm holding it far away from the tip of the pencil. So you want to get used to holding your pencil like this and get comfortable being able to make marks with your hand far away from the tip of the lead. So the first layer, I'm just getting used to the concept. So you can see that I went up, then I'm going all the way back down. And also what is happening is that my first layer, there's a lot of gaps in between. So as I make the passes, I'm trying to fill in those gaps. It's important that you get used to creating flat values. No variation from top to bottom, left to right. The better the base coat of your shadow pattern, the easier it's going to be for you to develop your drawing. So you have to think about the end at the beginning. Okay, so now I have my base coat. We can see on either side of the vertical line left and right, I've gone past that edge. I'm going to take my kneaded eraser now and I'm just going to drag that on the edge, and now I've created a very nice, very clean value right up to the edge, like so. It's important that you do this every once in a while. If you wait till the very end, it's going to be difficult to actually pull up that value. So value number 1, and on your handout it's flipped. So they have value 10 or 11 as the white. You know, I like to go top to bottom, not dark to light. And they also start with a 0. So I like to start with 1. So there are a few variations, not a huge deal, but just keep in mind that it is slightly different. So value number 1 is your highlight. And it is on your handout. So we have value number 2, and now we're going to start creating value number 3. It's important, if you squint your eyes, you should still be able to differentiate value 1 and 2. If they start merging together, there's not enough of a separation. Remember, we're going to end up at value number 11, and it's got to be black. So we've got to manage each square or rectangle in this case to achieve that dark black effect at the end. Again, I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm using my HB pencil, and you can see that every time I make a pass, the value gets a little bit darker. And this is a good warm-up to how we actually create values and create form and transitions on the figure. So it's important that you get a handle of this and that you are able to create these subtleties with just an HB pencil. Now, that being said, an HB pencil has only so many values that it can create without you putting pressure on your pencil. I'm not putting any pressure on my pencil at this stage. I am just dragging it back and forth. I'm actually trying not to put pressure on my pencil because I do not want to crush the fibers of the paper. I'm going to use the pencils that I have in order to create the value that I want. So an HB pencil is going to give you probably 3, maybe 4 values. Value 2, value 3, like so. I'm not so worried about whether there's the same height between 1 and 2 and 3. I just want to know and be able to see when you hand in your assignment that there is a clear division between each value, and they progressively get darker as we go down. Okay, so I'm going to try to get one more value. I also noticed that my pencil is starting to get a little distorted. So I have multiple pencils of HB and 2B and 4B, so I don't have to stop and sharpen my pencil.
You can also notice, hopefully, that there is no gaps in the value now. So I've filled in all the gaps, and you may have also noticed that I can go up or down, and I'm always going in the same direction. I'm not changing the direction. This is not cross-hatching. This is putting a value down. Like so.
the next key. So each one of these is called a key. So when I refer to, you need to darken your key, means that the value needs to go down. All right, so I have 4. Again, if I squint my eyes, there's a nice slow decrease in value. It's getting darker as we're going down. And 7 are too close together. It's real important, and this is a good sort of how should I say example of how you are constantly critiquing your work. So what I noticed was 5 and 6 were too close together. So I'm going to constantly reevaluate, and at the end I'm going to go back and reevaluate and adjust accordingly. So nothing is set in stone, right? So I think on some of the earlier videos I talk about an absolute truth versus a variable truth. So by and large, we need to be flexible. We need to adapt to our situations and what we have in front of us. So we are considered navigating most of the time in a variable truth, meaning that we're more open to adjust. We're finishing up the value scale. So we can see here that all the values look pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and create value number 11. Oops. I'm going to start off with an angle. Now you probably won't get to the value black, but you want to get pretty close to it. The reason why I say that is because you don't want that last value to be disconnected from the previous value. So that looks like it's in progression. If I squint my eyes, it looks quite good. This looks like it's a little bit lighter right here. I'm going to darken that down. Maybe darken this down just a little bit. Now, one thing that you will know if you've crushed the fibers of your paper, if it starts looking glossy, your paper. So just keep in mind that once you've damaged the paper, there's nothing else you can do. You might as well just move on, or start another drawing, or just deal with that kind of glare effect. None of those are really great solutions. I'm just going back in now, and I am using a 6B, so I need to be really careful that I don't, actually I'm going to go back into a 2B. So I just want to make sure that each value is progressively darker. And it looks like this batch in here is a little bit too close together. So, and also this one here. So I'm just going to clean it up. So we have our highlight, our midtone. So our highlight is number 1, our midtone is value number 2 and 3. So we have a reflective light, which is going to be on the underside here. You know, I say it's about 5, 6. Reflected light. One thing to note about the reflective light is that it has to be darker than midtones. So if your reflective light is lighter than a midtone or the same value, it's going to jump into the lights. It has to be part of the shadow family. So just keep that in mind. Shadow area. So basically we have this area in here that's kind of flat and doesn't have a light, reflective light, and is more or less a transition between the core shadow and your reflective light. And that's usually value 7 and 8. So I like to call this shadow area, and it is 7 and 8. Now, core shadow. So that is the division between light and shadow. So we have all these transition, and then there's like a barrier where it is kind of absent of light or of reflective light. And we can see there's like a band that runs across. So, and when we get into the sphere, I will point that out more. So, and that core shadow is going to be, in this case, it's going to be value number 9 because we are doing an 11 value scale. Now the cast shadow has 2 different ones. So it's going to be 10, 11, and it could even be 9. So if we look right where the sphere and the cast shadow meet, it is a value number 11 in this case here. It's the darkest part of the drawing. We could say this part up in here as well is probably close to an 11, but definitely the cast shadow where the object and the ground meet is gonna be the darkest value. So again, these are generalities, they're general rules, sometimes they get broken. So, but we need to learn them in order to be able to see them, because at the end of the day, we only can draw, paint, sculpt, or create art with what we know. So we have to have this basic knowledge here to be able to get into more complex ideas and to be able to solve problems that we don't necessarily know or understand.